Hi everybody, just thought I'd make a quick Q&A video here. I'm with Ian and Eli is with me also. We're going to Cows & Co for supper. The cafe area was open today, so Taryn's over there already. She was helping out. So we're heading over there. I'm by the culvert here that was washed out. You can see they put a new one in. It's not quite laying like they wanted to, but they were having difficulty getting it laid in place because of the amount of water in there. I think they're planning to come back this summer when this creek is dried out, and they'll reposition it. And they also want to check the south culvert that's in here. This one was completely rusted out on the bottom, so they're thinking maybe that south one is too. So the plan is for them to come back here this summer sometime and reposition this one and replace that other one if necessary, but they'll make that decision once they can get in there to look at it closer. You can see here on the west side the water has gone down significantly. There's still a little bit of water running in the creek, and I'm sure there will be for a while, but most of the water is gone. The fields are still fairly wet. Hopefully here next week looks pretty good for weather wise, not a lot of chances of rain, and some warmer temperatures near the end of the week. So the manure pumping crew is working on a farm in Minnesota currently, and I think they're planning to come back here once they're finished up there, and hopefully the fields will be ready by then. There was a couple more questions that were about the parlor mainly. If we have time, I want to swing by there on our way home and finish this video off for you guys. Yeah, we'll see you then. Back in the parlor here now. So somebody asked why it was so clean in the parlor, why there's no manure. So there's a deck or a gutter on the back there, where if they do poop, it lands in there. But typically if the cows are relaxed in here and calm, they won't poop or pee in there. So there were also a couple questions about why we have a parallel parlor versus a rotary, and somebody asked if I could talk about rotaries or parlors versus robots, I think was the question. It's probably something I could in more detail talk about in a whole video of its own. There's not a real simple answer to parallel parlor versus rotary versus robots, but I guess I can explain a little bit why we have a parallel parlor. So when we started here, we originally built for milking around 700 cows with the thought of expanding to 1,500–1,600 cows milking, which is where we are now. So we originally started with a double 16 parallel parlor, which we then expanded to a double 24. So initial cost is part of the reason why we went with parallel parlor. Quite a bit cheaper than going with a rotary, and robots really, we didn't really think about robots at that time, I guess. So we could expand a parallel parlor as we expanded the farm, where a rotary, you'd have to make that initial investment in the right size rotary that you think you're going to need down the road, because it's not very easy to expand. I mean, you would have to tear it out completely and rebuild the whole building, because you were building your building around what size your rotary is. And just the initial upfront cost, a rotary is going to cost quite a bit more than a parallel parlor, and you're also going to have more maintenance costs. But once you milk a certain amount of cows, your labor becomes more efficient on a rotary, so there's a trade-off there. Down the road, if our parallel parlor is worn out to the point where we need to replace it, or we need to make big investments in it to keep it up, I think we'll at that point consider both robots and a rotary parlor, as well as redoing our parallel parlor. We'll have to see how, you know, what the future brings, but I think it would be between a rotary and robots probably at that point. The thing about robots is, I think if you want to do robots right, for a farm our size, you almost have to start from scratch. If you start retrofitting robots into a dairy our size, it becomes a little bit more complicated, because you have to find good ways to run all your power, your milk lines, you have to have several rooms far apart from where our equipment room is now for chemical, milk storage. To, you know, you have to have receivers in multiple areas, then pump it to our central milk storage. And the way that we're laid out now is not really with any of those things in mind. We'd have to run electrical, run plumbing. It's if you want to do robots right, I feel like you have to really design your barn around robots. We also have 170 stalls in each pen, so we're kind of at that point to, and if you put robots in, you're likely taking some stalls out. So then it becomes, well, are you taking out so many stalls that you need 2 robots? So then you're looking at 120 to maybe 140 cows per pen. Well, that's quite a few less than 170. Or if you go with 3 robots, you really need to be milking at least 180 cows in that pen. Well, then you're overcrowding on the stalls you have. So we're with our pen size, it's not really a good match either. Not saying we wouldn't go that route or we wouldn't look at it, but just a few quick things that came to my mind, I guess, when I saw that question. And we have talked about it some, but we're not at that point where we need to make that decision or even start considering it. The parallel parlor has worked very well for us. Very limited breakdowns, next to none. Preventative maintenance is fairly simple. We do pretty much all the maintenance ourselves. There's maybe a few things that I don't do or that I can't do if we have a major breakdown, but I can't remember the last time that we had a breakdown that we couldn't fix on our own. It's been years. So that's another thing to consider. If you have robots, there's a lot more moving parts. You have to have more of a skilled person that can work on those parts, but with a parallel parlor, there really isn't. There's not many things that can go wrong, and if there are, they're usually pretty easy to figure out what the issue is or to troubleshoot. Yeah, like I said, now I've already been talking for 5 minutes. I feel like it definitely can be its own whole video, and I think it'd be fun to. There's a few dairies in North Dakota that have robots, one with a rotary parlor, a rotary robotic parlor, and a few with individual robots. I think it would be fun to visit those farms if they would let me, and maybe have some of that discussion about why they went with robots and what they're seeing their advantages versus a parlor. I think I'll probably end this video here. Appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.